How's it going, metalheads? Welcome back to another video. This is going to be a little bit of a different video from my normal ones. In this video, I'm going to be discussing like how I got into metal and my journey. And then also, if you're looking to start your metal journey, how you might go about doing that. This is not going to be a tutorial video because there's many different ways, to start out getting into metal and stuff like that. And I'm not going to tell anybody how to do it, but I'm going to share my experience and how I think that, you could go about it. This isn't the only way, but it's one of the ways. So yeah, let's get started. I'm pretty young. I'll start by saying that I'm about to turn 18 here. But I have been in heavy music for a while now, since I was about 12 or 13. It started with AC/DC back in 2020 or 2021. My dad used to listen to a lot of AC/DC, and he would talk about them a lot. And so finally one day, I just said, let's give it a shot, and I dug it. So yeah, I started with AC/DC. They're one of my favorite bands, as you guys might know. And then eventually, I started listening to Metallica. I actually heard Metallica first in my friend's truck, and I thought, this is sick. It was the Four Horsemen, that song. I thought, this is sick, so I kept listening to more. Judas Priest was an early favorite of mine, as well as a lot of hair metal. I listened to a lot of like Motley Crue, and stuff like Def Leppard early on. And I discovered Pantera. That was kind of my introduction to more heavier stuff, beyond like thrash and trad metal. That was Pantera. That was pretty early on. And then from there, it just kept getting heavier. I discovered death metal with bands like Cannibal Corpse and 6 Feet Under. Don't hate on me, or do. I don't really care. But 6 Feet Under is pretty cool, because I was into Cannibal Corpse, and I heard that the former vocalist, who did all the great albums, had another project. So I assumed, it's going to be great. And I still think 6 Feet Under is awesome. I know they get a lot of hate, and Barnes gets a lot of hate because it sounds the same as all of his other work. But I like them. So that was one of the first band shirts I ever bought, was Maximum Violence, 6 Feet Under. Yeah. I got into the merch pretty early. I got a Master of Puppets shirt, obviously, was my first one. And then I think it was Toxic Holocaust and Overdose of Death was the next one. And then 6 Feet Under. But yeah, at the time when I was buying those shirts, I did not know that, buying merch and wearing shirts and stuff was such a big thing in metal. I just did it because I like the bands, which I guess now is looking back is, what happens when you do that. It's a really big thing. But anyway, it was just the next heaviest thing from then on. That was almost 5 years ago, and since then I've discovered a whole lot of bands from friends, like Joaquin and Cripsal Golgotha, the drummer from Cripsal Golgotha. He's introduced me to a lot of cool music over the years because he was already into the metal scene when I was just starting out. And then I also discovered a lot through YouTube. I'd watch a lot of riffs videos and just music videos. And I discovered a lot of bands through YouTube. Yeah, it was a pretty cool journey, and I'm still on it currently. But now I'm open to anything, and I'll give anything a shot. It doesn't have to be metal. I think the energy in the music is what makes me like it, and not, what kind of music it is. I already passed through my metal elitist phase. There is a phase, I believe, in most metalheads' journeys where they think metal is the best thing ever created, and that other music is lower than it, which, I definitely thought there for a point. But now that I am, a little bit older, and I can see that, all music is equal. It just happened to be what you like. It's subjective. I think it's the most subjective thing on the planet, and you can like what you like. So I'm open to anything, and I believe that the energy in the music is what draws people to it. Your certain type of energy being in the music is what draws you to it, and not, what kind of music it is. You can like anything. It just has to have your certain type of energy in it, which I think is really cool. So yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much it for me. It was kind of a brief overview. There's definitely other stuff to discover still. I will say that it definitely is progression. You can't start out with the heaviest thing, and heavy is a subjective term as well. But I feel like there's definitely, a common view of what's heavy and what's not as heavy. The gateway bands like AC/DC, Metallica, Judas Priest are heavy, but there's heavier stuff. I remember, so I listen on Apple Music, and Apple Music has like a similar artist thing. If you go to the bottom of an artist page, it'll show you all the similar artists or the stuff they think is similar. And I was going through a bunch of bands, and I remember I was looking at stuff like Suffocation and stuff, and I saw Dying Fetus. As you guys know now, Dying Fetus is probably my favorite death metal band of all time. But then I was looking through all these crazy band titles like Suffocation and stuff, band names, and I was like, I don't know about that one. So I did not click on Dying Fetus at that point because I was like, I'm not ready for that. It's too heavy. But now they're one of my favorite bands. So I do think it's progression. And even like stuff like Slayer. I remember listening to like Angel of Death for the first time and not really digging it that much. But now it's really good. So yeah, it's definitely progression. And I do think that as you go on and listen to more, you will be more accepting. It's definitely, the term acquired taste. It's definitely an acquired taste. You have to listen to it for a little bit in order to really understand it, I think. I think a lot of metal is misunderstood, and if people would just give it a shot, I think they would find something in metal that they would enjoy. I think there's a genre of metal for everybody, and you can be into all the genres like I am, or you can be into just one, and that's perfectly fine. But I think there's something in metal for everybody, and that everybody should, take the time to actually sit down with it and give it a shot. But yeah, there are many different paths. I know that, friends like Joaquin from Crips and also other people, had other people that were already in there that just threw him right in. I know he really likes Tool and stuff, and a lot of people got in on the prog path. But I definitely, started with rock and then thrash and then death metal, and now everything. And I think that if you're looking at linear progression, that, that path from rock to thrash to death to whatever is the most linear, because you can see like, like rock is kind of like proto thrash, and then thrash is, started, influencing death metal. So, I just kept going up that path. But there's many different ones. So yeah. On what bands to listen to and, what albums to check out and stuff like that, I'm going to have somebody else come in a second here and help me out with that. So I'll see you guys in a second. So this is my girlfriend, Anastacia.
Hi.
As somebody who is here to simulate kind of the metal beginner, as somebody who is getting into metal on my behalf, because I wanted to, but also because I think it's a cool journey that people should try and go on. Yeah, she has listened to bands like The Offspring and Green Day and a little bit of Metallica and stuff beforehand. That was kind of her starting point. So more of a punk starting point. But not a whole lot of metal until I showed up. And so she's here to kind of talk about some of the bands that I've been showing her. And these are the bands also that I think if you're trying to get into metal, or if you are trying to get somebody else into metal and showing them bands and stuff, that I think you should show them. So yeah, I've showed you bands like Avenged Sevenfold. What'd you think of them?
I like them a lot. I really only liked one song right now, but you're introducing me more.
I also showed you Anthrax.
Oh yes, you did. I really liked those.
Yeah, I think thrash is a good starting point, especially if they're coming off of punk or hard rock, just because it's pretty similar to those. I don't think you should really go further from that. Death metal and that kind of thing is a little bit further down the road, I think, for that type of thing. Because I've showed you some death metal before, and you thought it was pretty crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't that into it yet?
No, not yet.
And so that's all right. So yeah, I think if you're coming off a hard rock background or a punk background or stuff like that, you should definitely start with thrash because it's the most akin to it. And yeah, what else have I showed you?
What else? He's shown me a little bit of Pennywise because I do like the punk. What else? I don't know.
That's about it at this point.
Yeah.
I think next we're gonna start with Judas Priest and stuff like that. Start getting into more traditional metal, because that is also pretty akin to hard rock and stuff. Although it has more of traditional metal elements, it's still closer to rock and stuff than death metal is. And I think you might like it. So that's what we're gonna do next. Some bands like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and stuff like that, and then also probably gonna show her all of the classic thrash bands like Exodus and stuff like that, because those are also pretty easy listening in my opinion. So yeah, if you're trying to get into metal or you're trying to get somebody else into metal, I think those are the bands you should start with. So yeah, hope you're all doing well. Have a nice day. See ya.